Hello everyone, I'm here to do a book review for you. Today I will be talking about The Hazel Wood by Melissa Albert. This book just came out on January 30th. I read it a couple weeks before its publication date, so thank you so much to Flatiron Books for sending me an arc of it. And yeah, I just want to talk to you guys about this book because it's highly anticipated. A lot of people are talking about it. The cover alone, I think, is why it's so anticipated, and the whole premise. So I thought, hey, this should have its own video review because a lot of people are excited about it, and I wanted to share with you my thoughts and opinions on the book. Sorry, I am sick. I have a cold, so I sound horrible. I don't look that great. I know. Hopefully I will get over it soon, but I just want to preface that. This is the first book in a series. Right now we know that there is going to be a second book and a 2.5 book, so like kind of a novella in between, I guess, books 2 and 3. I don't know how many books it's going to be, but for sure there is going to be a book 2 and like a 2.5 book, I don't know. And this is, I think this is a debut novel. I'm not too sure about it actually. Basically what I'm gonna do in this video review is tell you what the book is about, my overall thoughts and opinions on it, and then and that will be non-spoiler, and then I will go into a little bit of spoiler detail. So I will warn you when I do go into spoilers, but in case you're wondering if you want to read this book or you want to buy this book, I want to share with you my thoughts non-spoiler wise. So let's get into it. So basically this book follows Alice and her mother, and they have been on the run for like Alice's whole life. They never stay in one place for long. Bad luck seems to follow them wherever they go. So they're on the run a lot. Alice is now 17. They've just been place after place after place. But then Alice receives word that her grandmother, her mother's mother, has died. Alice's mom thinks that their bad luck is going to change. They kind of settle down in one place for a while, and things get really rocky from there. So what's interesting about this is Alice's grandmother is a well-known author. She wrote this really dark, creepy short story collection called Tales of the Hinterland. And this book is like so obscure, like nobody can get their hands on it. Alice has not even read it herself in its entirety, but her grandmother is known for that really creepy short story collection. And her grandmother has her own estate called the Hazel Wood. So like I said, they figure out that her grandmother has died, and so her and her mom kind of pack up and move to New York and like kind of settle roots because they think that their bad luck has changed. And what happens is that Alice's mom gets kidnapped from somebody claiming to be from the Hinterland, you know, the place where Alice's grandmother's stories kind of reside. And that's basically what this whole premise is about. It is a dark, delicious, kind of creepy book. Overall, I gave this book a 4 out of 5. If I'm being honest, it would probably be a 3.75 out of 5. I was very much anticipating this book. I thought the premise sounded amazing. I love the dark twistiness of it. And overall, I did enjoy it, but it didn't live quite up for me personally. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to gather my thoughts here. So I would say this is a fantasy book technically, but I feel like the first half of it especially reads like a contemporary, which I personally enjoyed because I do love fantasy, but sometimes fantasy books can get confusing. You have all these kingdoms and wars and characters, and it's very hard to figure out all what's going on. So I do enjoy that it kind of read like a fantasy for the first half. The second half really was kind of fantastical, I'd say more fairy tale-esque. Overall, I did enjoy this book. It was definitely dark and creepy. I'd say if you're a big fan of Caravel by Stephanie Garber, I think you would really enjoy this book, especially for the writing alone. Melissa Albert was very descriptive with her writing, especially like comparing a lot of things like how red the leaves were to like blood and stuff like that. Stephanie Garber did that a lot in her book as well, which is something I kind of enjoyed. This book I think was a little bit better writing wise, but I'd say if you're a fan of Caraval and the way it was written and how it was told, you would probably love this book. So I loved the whole Tales of the Hinterland thing with Alice's grandmother, and the whole story of this book. Like when I read the back of the book, I thought, oh, she was famous for this book. Everyone's probably read it. No, like barely anybody has read it. Like it's not in publication anymore. You can rarely find it. It's not on eBay. You can't look up the stories online. Like I've never heard of a book where like it's like gone. Like nobody can have access to it. Like only the rare few have found it kind of in odd places and things like that. I loved that aspect. I thought that was really intriguing because we live in such a digital world. Everything is like super accessible, and this book was not. So Alice had never known about these stories. She rarely caught glimpses of it. She really, you know, thought of her grandmother a lot because she was such a recluse that she never could find out information about her grandmother in this book. I enjoyed that. So what happens, like I said, is his mother gets kidnapped from somebody claiming to be the Hinterland. Alice teams up with another boy at school named Finch, who's actually read Tales of the Hinterland, and he's a really big fan. And so they kind of team up together and decide to go to the Hazel Wood, where Alice's grandmother's residence is, and, you know, try to save her mom. And here's where I didn't enjoy the thing. The characters were the main downfall, I think, for me of this book. Alice is not a nice character. She was very mean. She was cruel, I would say, honestly. And I get, you know, she was 16, 17, but I thought, like, a lot of her dialogue, the way she would talk to Finch and to other people, I was like, you need to, like, really, like, look at yourself. Like, you gotta be nicer. Like, you're just straight up cruel. And I really did not like her as a character. I think as the novel progresses on, you learn why Alice is the way she is, especially if you've read the book. You understand why she's so cruel. But as a reader, you don't know that kind of backstory quite yet. So you're just like, this girl is mean. So I did not enjoy Alice. Alice was our main character, and I could give 2 cents about her. Finch was our other main character, and he was okay. A lot of things he would say, they would just be very secretive about their friendship, and it really wasn't even a friendship. It was kind of like a bargain, like, you help me, I'll help you, let's do this thing together. And I really never felt like they were in it together, like they kept secrets from one another. They would say snide marks through one another. I never felt like they were truly a team, and maybe that's a testament to both their characters, but I just didn't really love our main characters. I thought it was just, they were just not the best. Finch was definitely nicer and more considerate than Alice, for sure. Alice was just, I don't know what that girl was. She was just cruel. The Hinterland. My favorite part of this whole book was the Tales of the Hinterland. Throughout the book, we get kind of snippets about the certain short stories, because this whole book is 7 short stories, and they're creep, they're dark, they're not your fairy tales, you know? Nothing ends on a happy note. It's all very dark and gruesome. I loved reading those stories, and I loved learning more about the world of the Hinterland and how, you know, these stories were. I want a book solely on just the Tales of the Hinterland. Like, I want a book that's just literally the 7 stories. And I think that we are getting that. Like, that's supposed to be 2.5. I think it's called Tales from the Hinterland. Don't quote me on that. But I really like that a lot. I think that's very interesting. Also, without spoiling it, but it definitely, if you're into fairy tale retellings, if you're into kind of the Brothers Grimm and kind of dark, twisty, you know, retellings that'll make you be like, ugh, this is kind of odd and strange and weird, I think you would like the Hazel Wood. Overall, it wasn't my favorite, and I didn't live up to the hype quite personally for me, but I did enjoy it. I had a good time reading it, and I really, you know, it was a page turner, because I kept wondering, well, how is this going to tie up in the end? How are we going to solve this? Like, what? How did these link? It was just very dark and morbid and twisted. So overall, I gave it a 3.75, closer to 4. I would recommend it. It just wasn't one of my favorites. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for non-spoilers wise. Hopefully I did good reviewing it. Sometimes when I do book reviews, I'm like, you were just all over the place. That's how I always am. But either way, I would recommend this book. Wasn't one of my favorites, but did still really enjoy it. Now I'm going to talk briefly about spoilers. If you have read the book, please continue to watch on. If you haven't, do not watch any further. I do not want to spoil it for you, because you definitely need to read the book to understand. Even I don't even understand. The ending got confusing as hell for me, which is why I don't love it as much. And the main characters. I think those are the 2 main things I didn't love about this book. The main characters and the ending, and how it all felt kind of rushed, and it really wasn't, like, everything kind of happened a little bit too easily, and I don't know. Either way, do not watch any further if you have not read the book, because spoilers are ahead. At the end, we learn that Alice, who is named Alice after her story in the Tales of the Hinterland called Alice 3 Times, which I think everyone was expecting. That was quite obvious, which I was like, okay, this is okay. So she's actually a story. And we learned that Alice's grandmother did not create these stories herself. There's this other parallel world called the Hinterland, or like a fairy tale world, I don't know. And she, like, kind of stole the stories, and she wrote them in her book, which was a big no-no, and she created like a gap, like, in between these worlds, where she would just, like, now she's a gate. And basically, Alice's mom is not Alice's mom. She's actually still, like, she's Alice's grandmother's daughter, but she's not Alice's mom. Like, Ella, I think that's her name, Ella stole Alice as a baby and thought, you know, I'm not going to make her grow up as a story. I'm going to make her be an actual human being and into the real world. And I don't know, that was interesting. And then the fact that then when Alice went to the Hinterland, and then when Finch died, I was like, everything happened like like so freaking fast. I was like, Finch just died, and it was like next page, moving on. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what the crap? This is should not be like this. And then, you know, when Alice, you know, embraced her story and she got stuck in it, she was stuck in it for like 2 pages, and then she got out of it. I was like, this is too quick of a resolve for me. Wrapped up too nicely, I thought. For a book, I think that was supposed to be dark and grim and things like that, I wanted to end kind of bitterly. I don't know. I went into it kind of expecting like a not happy ending, and I feel also like this book could be a perfect standalone. Like the way it was ended, it could have been a great standalone. I kind of wish it was a standalone with maybe an addition, a book of being the Tales of the Hinterland, which I am excited for, but I don't feel like it's going to need to be a series, especially with the way she wrapped it up. She kind of wrapped it up like, you know, it's all said and done. I don't know what more they're going to do with the story. I could see, I'm sorry, my voice is, ugh. I could see where she could go. There's a lot of other threads of things she can follow, but I feel like it could have been great as just a standalone, just like the one and done. So I don't know, the ending was just confusing. Like throughout the whole ending, I was like, this is so weird. Like Alice was a story, yes, I get that. Her grandmother technically stole these stories. Alice is not really, you know, Ella is not her mom. She's, I don't know, it just got so odd. And Hinterland, I thought, was very interesting. I would like to read more about Hinterland, I think. I don't know. I don't know. I'm all over the place with this. I don't know. The ending, I was just not a fan of. I feel like things happened too quickly. We got a rush of answers all really fast. She got out of her bad situation very, very quickly, and everything was resolved super fast. I did not like the ending. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way. So if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts and opinions. I just wasn't happy with how it tied up at the end. It happened a little bit too perfectly. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like I'm just jabbering on and on and on, which is something I am so good at. But either way, if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.